So, March 12th is an anniversary for me. I don't know if it's a good one or a bad one. I guess it depends on how you look at it. But March 12th, 2016, I was in Florida. I had traveled from my home in the mountains of New Mexico to Florida, which is where I had lived for many, many years and where my mother and family lived. And I'd come back to visit mom and see the family. And while I was there, a friend and I decided to travel from the eastern part of Florida to the western part of Florida, straight across the state, basically, to visit one of my favorite state parks, Homosassa Springs State Park. I had worked on that park. I'd been a contractor at one point in time and had worked on that park, and I love that park. It's an animal rescue, and they have manatees and all kinds of Florida wildlife and panthers and a bear and different animals that they have rehabilitated and saved, and the animals that they can put back in the wild they do, but the animals that are so severely injured that they can never survive in the wild, they keep them there. A lot of alligators and just all kinds of animals there. It's a great fun place. If you find yourself near Homosassa Springs, Florida, I strongly recommend it. It's a great day trip. It's a fun trip. It's a pretty park. The staff there is very friendly. Anyway, my friend and I decided to ride to Homosassa Springs for the day on the Harley. And the park has two entrances, one that you can park very close to the entrance and walk in, and another one is further away, and I would have to leave the bike out in a parking lot, and then you take a boat into the park, and that's what I wanted to do because I enjoy the boat ride, and I thought she would too, and so that's what we did, and we decided not to wear leathers, and we didn't wear helmets that day, and I usually wear my cut. I usually wear a leather vest, and I had always worn my helmet except for until that day. So we had a great trip there. We stopped at a couple of events that were going on. Spring festivals. Florida and the South are known for those. They have, every little town has a festival of some sort, and we stopped at one or two of the festivals and enjoyed ourselves and just had a pleasant ride to Homosassa Springs, and we spent a couple of hours at Homosassa Springs, and it was a wonderful trip. We leave the park, get on the bike, start heading back early afternoon. The weather is perfect, sun is shining, not a cloud in the sky. We're traveling state roads, nice, well-maintained state road. Traffic is light. Life is good, and until it's not, right? Life is always good until it's not, I suppose. Anyway, I see something to my left, just a white streak, and my mind goes, "Oh, it's a dog, and it's going to cross in front of you, and it's not going to present a problem." Well, I was wrong, and witnesses said that the dog actually attacked the bike, and it was a large dog. I don't know, size of a Mastiff or Rottweiler or something, a large dog. And we went straight down at 60 miles an hour. Fortunately for the lady on the back, I was her first point of impact. Fortunately for me, she was a small lady. We went tumbling down the road, and probably 50, 60 feet. She ended up a little in front of me and to my left. I was kind of behind her and to the right, a few yards behind her, and the bike was further behind me and further to the right off the road. I got up, I walked over to my friend. She's panicking, understandably. She didn't see the dog. She didn't know what was going on. So she was really pretty freaked out. Fortunately, she had no major injuries, and nothing real serious with her, thankfully. Thank God. And so then I walked over to the motorcycle, and it's Harley. It's a 500-pound bike, and I lifted it up on two wheels. I'm in shock. I'm not thinking properly. I don't know what I was doing or why I was doing that. I just did it. And people by this time have gathered around, and they're like, "No. put the bike down, don't do that. And I'm thinking, something's not right because I'm not seeing properly, but I'm not having any real trouble negotiating things. I don't know. I'm just not thinking right. I'm in shock. And I walked a few steps from the bike and sat down because I was weak, and then I passed out. The next thing I remember, the EMTs had arrived and they were rolling me over onto the backboard because I had massive injuries, and it woke me up. And I thought my eyes were open. My eyes were open, but they couldn't see them. Anyway, they rolled me over on the backboard, and I recognized the shoes of a state trooper and his pant leg, and I hear this voice say, you know, what have we got? And the EMTs, both paramedics, said basically together, possible DOA. And I kind of chuckled at that point. I thought that they knew I was conscious, but they couldn't see my eyes. But I chuckled and I said, "Hey guys, I'm okay. I'm an EMT and a wildland fireman, and I'm telling you I'm okay." And they go, "No, you're not okay. You don't see what we see. And we've got, air, we've got a helicopter on the way." And I'm like, I'm conscious, I'm alert, and I'm refusing air. And they said, "Well, we really don't recommend you do that," but I did. And I said, "Look, I will be the best patient you've got. Just put me in the bus with her because she's freaking out. And if she has to go there by herself, it's just not going to go well for her." So like, okay, but we strongly recommend against it. But the state trooper was there and he heard me say it, and they're like, okay. And these guys were great. They were highly professional. It's quite a ride to the hospital, and I was in and out of consciousness. And I did not have a clue what the extent of my injuries were at this point. I woke up as they were wheeling me out of the bus down the corridor to the ER. And I passed out anyway. I woke up again on the operating table. I don't know what they had done before I woke up, but I wake up and they're going to address something on the top of my head. And I can see now, which was weird. And I remember I don't know if she was a surgeon, what she was. The surgeon was there with his shield and mask on and stuff. And the assistant, I have a compression bandage on my head, and she's slowly moving that away. And when she did, blood just shot up all over the face of the surgeon. And so she, puts pressure back on it, stops the bleeding, and he has to go clean up, and he has to go, change his shield and all this stuff. He comes back in a few minutes and does the same thing. And she's being very cautious. She's being very careful. And as soon as she just moved that compression bandage just a little bit, it did the same thing, shot right in the face, and so he has to stop and he has to go put another shield on. And he walks back a third time, and she's nervous and she's doing the best she can do. And I'm watching this the whole time, not saying anything. And when she moved it the third time, he just moved his head, and the blood shot up on the light over the table. And it was bad. It was very, very bad. And I'm bleeding everywhere. My entire left side is blood and hamburger meat. I didn't know it at the time, but it was. And they're operating on me, doing some things, and my sister and brother-in-law were now at the hospital, and they were actually in the ER with me because when my friend had called, she called them to tell them I was in a hospital, but she didn't know what hospital we were in, and she was also being attended to and only had the one call. And anyway, my brother-in-law found us, and they made it clear to him that this was a very serious injury and to get there as quick as he could. So they did, my sister and my amazing brother-in-law, and they're in the ER with me, which I don't think that's normal, but they're there with me. And anyway, the third time, he just moves his head. Surgeon just moves his head, and the blood just goes up on the light. And then they got the bleeding under control, and he's sewing my face up. And I'm looking at him. I've never taken life real seriously anyway. And I'm sitting there looking at him. What else am I going to look at, right? And I just kind of chuckled a little bit and I said, "Hey, Doc, make sure you do a good job because you don't want to mess up a face as pretty as this one." And he looked at me real serious for a second and he says, "I guarantee you that you will look better when you leave than you did when you came in." And he was right. I did. Long story short, I had 30 broken bones, orbital fracture, skull fracture, severed artery, skin on the left side of my face, and my forehead was pretty much gone. The flap of skin here had been cut and it was hanging down over my eyes, and that's what they were sewing back up. Water on my heart, punctured lung, and from my ankle to my shoulder, the skin was missing. It was just third-degree burns, and it was bad. You could see my kneecap and my tendon and my bones in my left knee, and it was bad. I was in the hospital for 5 days on some heavy-duty, morphine and some different things, and it was fine. And then on the 5th day, I wanted to leave, and so I left. I asked them, and they didn't want to, but they discharged me, and I walked out of the hospital like a mummy. I mean, I'm bleeding through my bandages, I'm bleeding everywhere, and I walked out of the hospital. My sister didn't know I was coming home. I drove home that day. Anyway, I spent 30 days on my mother's couch, and the reason I know it was 30 days was because they had given me enough oxy for 30 days and some other painkillers we won't even talk about. And they said, "Look, whatever you need, we're going to give it to you. Whatever you want, whenever you want it." So they sent me home with a 30-day supply of many different things, and among them a couple of painkillers. And after 30 days, the last pill was up, and I thought, well, I'm done. I'm getting up. And I went to work. I had a project that I had started on a roof before the accident, and I went back up on the roof 30 days or so after the accident, 35 days after the accident had occurred, and finished that job. I'm bleeding on the roof. It was stupid. It was a foolish thing to do, but I did it, and I got paid. I had a couple of months of physical therapy and recovery time, and I drove back to New Mexico. When I was in New Mexico, I ended up on disability for about 2 years, and the reason I was on disability was because I was concerned about further medical expenses that the insurance and that the homeowner, the dog's owner, had homeowner's insurance, and the homeowner's insurance paid for everything. And so that worked out all right. And I told my attorneys, I don't really want anything. I just don't want any medical bills. I don't want to be stuck with bills. And so they negotiated a settlement. It was out of court. There was no. It happened fairly quickly, and I got a few $1,000s, not very much, above my medical expenses. And so I went on disability in New Mexico for a couple of years, and I felt like I was fully recovered. I wasn't fully recovered, but I was working, and I was making money again, and I'm like, okay, come off the disability, which I did, but I've never taken life very seriously. Not in the sense that I just don't think of myself as a perfectionist. I don't think of myself as particularly good at anything. I'm good at enjoying life. I'm good at loving life, and that's my focus, and it's worked out pretty good for me. I had other near-death experiences. 5 continents and dozens of nations have been chased by hippos. I spent 10 days in Hendon, England, the Royal Free Hospital for Tropical and Infectious Diseases, on the verge of death. I've had other experiences, but nothing like this. But anyway, I wrote this song, not really about this, because it wasn't the only experience like this in my life. but I wrote a song about how good God is, and I hope you like it. I know where I'm going, don't matter where I've been. If you want to come along, I could use a friend. You find me by the roadside, my thumb up in the air. People rushing by me, I don't have a care. Life is so uncertain, two things that I know. Long and winding road stretches out before me. Sometimes it seems endless. I just gotta believe. All I own is my guitar, but please don't think me poor. A road of possibilities is 1 mile mark or more. Life is so uncertain, two things that I know. I know where I'm going, good times are in sight. I'm so glad I made it, I'm gonna play all night. Music fills the air, stars are shining bright. Close friends beside me, dancing in his light. Life is so uncertain, two things that I know. I don't edit the video, so I messed up a little bit at the end. I was thinking about the ending instead of playing the ending. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and God bless you, and I hope that you find that God is great and that life is good.